Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into breathwork and specifically how it impacts functional movement. We've got some fascinating insights from Coach Dave to explore, especially his take on the diaphragm as the top of our core. So it's not just about taking a deep breath, huh?
It really is easy to underestimate something we do without even thinking, thousands of times a day, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like breathing is so basic, but then you hear someone like Coach Dave talk about it and you realize there's so much more to it.
Right. What I find fascinating is how he challenges that whole idea of breathing as passive. He's saying it's an active opportunity, a way to actually influence our physical and mental states. And it all starts with the diaphragm.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. I think a lot of us, we hear diaphragm and it's like, okay, basic anatomy, maybe a yawn. What are some of the things Coach Dave talks about that might surprise even those of us who are into wellness and stuff?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize the diaphragm is actually a muscle, and a powerful one at that.
Really? I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. It's not just about getting oxygen in. It's like the top of our core working with the pelvic floor to create stability. And that pressure is essential for movement.
Interesting. So how does that work?
Well, Coach Dave even talks about how it impacts things we don't usually associate with breath work. Things like walking, sleep.
Really? Even sleep?
Even intimacy.
Wow. Okay, so it's like he's saying our breath is connected to our entire experience of being in our bodies, not just like sitting in meditation or whatever.
Exactly. It's about how we're moving through the world every moment of the day.
Okay, so then back to the top of the core idea. How does that work in practical terms? Is it really like a strength-building tool we're all neglecting?
Absolutely. Think of your core as a cylinder, right?
Okay.
The diaphragm is the roof, your abs and back muscles are like the walls, and the pelvic floor is the base. So when you're breathing deeply, engaging the diaphragm, you're strengthening that entire structure from the inside out.
Wow, that's a cool visual. So it's not just about sit-ups and planks. It's about building that core strength from within.
Exactly. It's about stability and control that impacts everything, from your posture to how you move during exercise. Coach Dave actually works with a lot of people who are recovering from injuries, and this is key to how he helps them retrain their movement patterns.
That makes sense. It makes you think about those little aches and pains we all get, and just kind of write off as part of getting older. Could some of that be tied to how we're breathing and engaging our core?
Fascinating. Okay, so we're strengthening our core, but Coach Dave doesn't stop there, does he? He talks about system-wide benefits, right? What are some of the most surprising connections he's made?
One of the things that really stood out to me is the connection between the diaphragm and the nervous system.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, you know how when we get stressed, our breathing gets all shallow?
Yes, all the time. It's like we're stuck in that fight or flight mode. But when we consciously engage in that deep diaphragmatic breathing, we activate the rest and digest response. So we're actually calming the nervous system down.
It's like we have this built-in stress reliever we totally forget to use.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about a stronger core, but potentially lower stress levels just from breathing better.
Precisely. And it goes even further than that. Coach Dave talks about how proper breathing impacts your circulation and oxygenation, which is, huge for cardiovascular health.
Right, of course. Makes sense.
He also talks about how it stimulates the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve, isn't that like a really important one?
It is. It's like this super highway of a nerve that helps to regulate digestion, among other things.
Oh, wow.
So it's like sending this calming signal to your gut, which can help reduce bloating and improve how everything is, functioning down there.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me personally. So we're talking about stress, digestion. Coach Dave even connects breathwork to the endocrine system, right?
He does.
Okay.
He does.
Hormones are kind of my jam, so I'm dying to know how this all ties together.
Yeah, it's a whole other level, right? But he's great about bringing it down to earth. Like one of the things he talks about is the balloon breathing exercise.
A balloon. Okay, I'm picturing like kids' birthday parties, not exactly, deep personal growth here.
Right, but it's actually really interesting. He describes it as resistance training, essentially, but for your diaphragm.
So you're what, blowing up balloons? I don't get it.
It's more about the exhale. You're using the balloon to create resistance when you breathe out, so it's like lifting weights, but for those breathing muscles.
Oh, I see. So you're working against that pressure. Interesting. So it's not just like blowing up balloons like we did as kids.
No, it's much more intentional, much more about that controlled deep breath. You really feel it in your rib cage.
I bet. Okay, realistically, we can't exactly walk around with a balloon in our hand all day, right? So what are some other ways that Coach Dave talks about, like incorporating more mindful breathing into our regular lives?
He's really big on just bringing awareness to it, first and foremost.
Makes sense.
Because so much of our breathing, like I said earlier, it's unconscious, right? So just that act of paying attention can be huge. He mentions, like, maybe you set a reminder on your phone, or every time you're waiting for your coffee to brew in the morning, you take a few deep breaths, just those little things.
Right. So those moments we usually spend like totally mindlessly scrolling or whatever become these opportunities to strengthen our core and like calm our nervous system.
I love that. But he also talks about some more, I don't know, structured techniques too, right? Like I remember reading about box breathing, which sounded kind of intense, honestly.
That's funny you mention intensity because Coach Dave actually talks about how box breathing is a technique used by Navy SEALs.
Navy SEALs. Okay, now I'm really interested. What, to stay calm under pressure or something?
Exactly. It's about controlling your breath in a very specific rhythm.
Yeah.
So you inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold the empty breath for 4. And you just repeat that cycle, really focusing on each stage. Wow. So it's almost meditative, but with that more, I don't know, active, controlled element to it. I can see why that would be helpful in like high-stress situations. He also talks about alternate nostril breathing, which, I'll be honest, has always kind of intimidated me. I don't know, it just seems complicated.
Right.
What's his take on that one?
He actually presents it in a really accessible way. It's called Nadi Shodhana, which sounds very exotic.
It does.
But it's basically just using your fingers to close off one nostril at a time while you breathe through the other. It's supposed to help balance the energy channels in the body.
Oh, interesting. And what kind of benefits does Coach Dave associate with that?
He mostly focuses on the calming effects and then also how it can help with sleep, which tracks with what a lot of the research is saying.
Okay, so we've got this whole range from the simple act of just noticing our breath to these more structured practices like box breathing and alternate nostril breathing. I guess the takeaway is that it's about finding what works for you.
100%. Coach Dave really stresses that there's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's about exploring, playing around with it, and seeing what resonates with your body and your lifestyle. He even talks about the connection between breath work and movement, which I find really fascinating.
Oh, the connection to movement. Tell me more about that. Is he talking about breath work during exercise or?
It's more nuanced than that, actually. It's about how we're breathing as we move through the world. Like, have you ever noticed when you're running how your breath naturally falls into a rhythm with your stride?
Totally. Like your body just kind of finds its pace.
Exactly. Well, Coach Dave suggests that we can actually influence our movement by consciously changing our breathing pattern, even subtly.
Wow, really? I've never thought about it like that.
Like slowing down the breath might lead to a more relaxed, more efficient stride. It's like our breath can guide our movement.
That's amazing. It's like we have this built-in metronome and we can kind of adjust it depending on what we're doing. So we're not just breathing to like calm down or strengthen our core. We're using it to optimize how we literally move through space. It makes you think about athletes, dancers, like the applications are endless.
Right, and that's what's so exciting about this whole field. We're really just scratching the surface of what's possible. But I do think that connection between breath and movement speaks to how essential this practice is.
It's like he's saying that by changing our breath, we can change our whole experience, which is a pretty empowering thought. Makes you wonder how much we like hold ourselves back by not paying attention to something, like you said, as fundamental as breath.
Totally. It's like we've been given this incredible tool, this like built-in system for regulating our whole system.
And we just ignore it.
We do. We totally do.
And what I think is so cool is how Coach Dave brings it all back around. You know, we've talked about the physical stuff, the mental and emotional benefits, even that connection to movement. But it goes even deeper than that, right?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just like some new fad or anything. He talks about how breathwork has been part of ancient traditions for like centuries.
Totally. Like yoga.
Exactly. Yoga is a great example. The breath is like the foundation of the whole practice, right?
Yeah, that's so true. And it's not just yoga either. I mean, think about singers.
Oh, yeah.
Or like martial arts, public speaking, even.
It's huge. In all of those things, breath control is everything.
It really is. It's like they've all tapped into this secret weapon and the rest of us are just walking around totally clueless.
Right. We're missing out.
We are. It makes you wonder, like, what if we all approached our everyday lives with that same awareness? You know, like how different would things feel?
That's such a good question. Imagine having a tough conversation at work or having to, like, give a presentation.
The worst.
Right. But imagine approaching it with the same kind of breath control that, like, a performer brings to the stage.
Instead of letting your breath get all caught up in your chest, which just makes you feel more anxious.
Exactly. You're grounded. You're centered.
Yeah. Okay, I'm into it.
And there's actually a physiological reason for why that works, too. When we're breathing deeply, we're increasing the oxygen supply to our brain.
Makes sense.
And that can lead to better focus, more clarity, even a boost in creativity.
Okay, so next time I have writer's block, I'm ditching the extra coffee and doing some deep breathing instead.
See? There you go.
I love it. But honestly, the thing that really speaks to me about Coach Dave's work is how he frames breath work as this, like, pathway to self-discovery.
Oh, I love that. It's so true.
It's not just about these, like, techniques or trying to fix something that's broken.
It's deeper than that.
It's about becoming more aware of how you feel physically, emotionally.
Tuning in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, your breath is always there sending you messages.
It is. It's like this constant feedback loop.
And when we finally start to listen, that's when we can really start to understand ourselves,
It makes different choices about how we respond to things.
Exactly. It's about taking control.
Which ultimately, I think, is what it's all about, right?
Yeah, it's not just about breathing better. It's about, like, living better.
100%. Showing up as the best version of yourself.
Yes. And the best part is we all have access to this tool right here, right now.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? No expensive equipment, no special training required.
Just breathe.
Just breathe.
Yeah.
So simple, but so profound.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of breath work, I'm feeling like a mix of awe and possibility.
I love that.
Awe at how something so simple can be so powerful. And possibility for, like, what we can all achieve when we start to tap into that power.
Beautifully said. And if our listeners take away just one thing today, I hope it's that sense of curiosity about their own breath.
Yes. And the willingness to explore what happens when we bring more awareness to this amazing gift we've been given. So until next time, may your breaths be deep and your dives be insightful.